Okay, so let's start by sitting up comfortably. And as always, if at any point your comfortable position becomes uncomfortable, just go right ahead and adjust it as needed. And let's start this evening by, how should we start this evening? Let's start this evening just by looking at an object. Just pick out some object in the room, not on the screen here for now, some object across the room, or look down into the palm of your hand. Doesn't matter what the object is. And just rest your attention on the object. Not stare at it, not try to focus on it, not try to, think about it or understand it. Whatever thoughts happen to come and go, of course, they come and go. Sounds such as this voice and come and go, and whatever other sounds may be in your environment. We're just resting the attention on the palm of the hand or whatever object you're gazing at. Not trying to even hold the attention there. It's like resting the attention on something is like when you place, let's say, an apple on the counter. Once you put it on the counter, you don't have to keep putting it there. You don't have to hold the apple there. Maybe if something happens here in this part of the country, we get earthquakes a lot. Hey, if there's an earthquake, the apple rolls off the counter, you just put it back there. But you don't go, I'm going to put it back and make it stay here. You just place it there. And then it rests by itself. There's this sort of natural inertia. So we're just resting the attention on some object. Okay, fine. And now we can put aside the object. Sitting up comfortably, let's close our eyes. Now we could rest the attention on some object of experience that still persists with our eyes closed. For example, we could rest the attention in the area of the heart. Not trying to visualize it or define it or feel it clearly. As soon as we say the area of the heart, there's some automatic going of the attention there, and just let it rest there. Now let's rest the attention on the contact between your body and the seat. That's probably going to be the contact between your butt and the seat, whatever you're sitting on. That's a sensation. And just notice what that sensation feels like. Just rest your attention there. And once again, there can be other stuff in the background. Once again, there's no particular effort to be resting the attention there. And now let's put that aside. And just leave everything as it is. Not picking anything out for any special attention. So whatever sensations might happen to be there, happen to be noticed, fine. Whatever sounds, whatever visual experiences behind the eyelids happen to be noticed, fine. Stuff comes all by itself. Stuff goes all by itself. No one's doing it. It happens all by itself. So there's nothing for us to do but rest. Just rest in the middle of this natural, ordinary, everyday awareness, which is the only kind of awareness there is. Awareness doesn't come in different flavors. In fact, we may notice that awareness is flavorless, it's colorless, it's everythingless, we could say. Colors, flavors, sensations, thoughts, feelings come and go within this natural awareness. Like images coming and going within a mirror. But the mirror itself has no color. Just a pure open space within which experiences can come and go. So we can just rest naturally in this awareness. Just rest in this natural, wide open space of awareness. And whatever comes and goes within it is not our concern. We're not involved. It's not up to us to choreograph the comings and goings of whatever's there within the awareness. Just as it's not up to a mirror to manage the images that come and go within it. We're on vacation. Not trying to concentrate or focus on anything in particular. Certainly not trying to clear the mind or get rid of thoughts or anything else. Doesn't matter what appears in the mirror. None of it detracts from the mirror's inherent, colorless, flavorless, pure nature, pure reflectivity. So there's nothing to do but remain as you are. Nothing to do but melt into your own nature of pure awareness, like open space, like an ice cube melting in a warm ocean. Doesn't matter what sounds may come and go. Doesn't matter what colors or sensations come and go. Doesn't matter what thoughts or feelings come and go. We barely even take note of it. It's just stuff, just images coming and going within the mirror. And nothing sticks to the mirror. No matter how intense an image may be, it doesn't stick to the mirror. It doesn't stain the mirror. So nothing can damage this pure, crystalline, pristine, inherent emptiness of our awareness, even when it's full of stuff. So there's nothing to push away or pull toward. Just rest as this open, mirror-like, space-like awareness, which you already are. To be what you already are, there's nothing to do. Just rest in yourself. Rest in this awareness, this beingness. Melt into it like an ice cube in a warm ocean. And the ice cube is just water all along. So you're just melting into what you've been all along. Anytime you feel yourself resisting a thought or an emotion or anything else, or trying to hold on to it or figure it out or wrestle with it in any way, just relax your grip on it. That's simple. Once you relax your grip on it, your job is done. Doesn't matter if it falls away in 1 second or 10 minutes. As long as you relax your grip on it, you can relax back into yourself, into this colorless, space-like awareness. And then it doesn't matter whatever else is in there. So just relax your grip again and again if necessary. Relax back into this awareness. Not come back to this awareness, because we can never leave it. There's nowhere else to be. Now keep the eyes closed and take a few minutes to start gently bringing the body back to a more active state. Maybe move your hands and feet around, a little bit like waking up from a long nap. Shift your body position. Stretch your limbs. Just take a few minutes to very luxuriously bring the body from its state of deep rest back to a more active state. Again, some of you are familiar with this trick, especially it's especially nice if you've been looking at screens all day. You vigorously rub the palms of your hands together and then quickly put them on your eyelids. That's kind of soothing, not only to the eyes, but goes straight back into the brain. And when you feel ready, you can slowly open the eyes. Okay, how's everyone doing? Everybody good? Good, good. Okay, anyone have questions? First, I always like to start with any questions that people might have about the process of meditation itself or the experience of meditation itself. So anything on that. So you just, click on the little blue hand down at the bottom of your screen in the participants menu to raise your hand, your virtual hand. Okay, so no meditation questions. Any questions or comments about anything? What's on your mind tonight? Nothing. Great. Perfect. Perfect. We have achieved perfect emptiness. Good, good. How unusual. Okay, Alan, I'm going to unmute you.
Well,
yes, Alan.
Hi, everybody. In the online experiences, both here with you and in our other meditations and stuff, the connection is not only just as deep as it is with we're present physically, but there seems to be even a more settled state in which the need to discuss and ask questions isn't as big as it is normally. Seems more settled. And I like that. I'm getting used to being at home now.
Interesting. Do other people feel that? You can, nod yes or shake no. People who've been coming, people who've been coming on Tuesday nights, more settled at home. Maybe we'll do it this way forever. I don't know. Maybe I like having tea and cookies together at the end.
I do too, Dean, but I'm enjoying the online. It's the only thing we have now, but it's really
Yeah.
working.
Yeah, and yeah, no, I'm really glad to hear that it's working like that. Not everything works so well online, but this seems to. And especially now you've gotten more used to it. Some of you are familiar. You've heard me use my favorite teaching from the Tibetan tradition, where they say "Gompa Ma Yin Kompa Yin." Gompa Ma Yin Kompa Yin means Gompa Ma Yin means meditation isn't. Right? There's no such thing as meditate. There isn't this thing for us to do. Now we're going to do this thing called meditation. So Gompa Ma Yin, meditation isn't. Kompa Yin, acclimation is. Getting used to is. Meditation, and there's so many levels to that. The most, to me, maybe kind of the most important level is the discovery that truly there is nothing to do in meditation, because it's hard for us to believe it, because everything else that we do involves doing, right? Everything else where we want some kind of result, we want some kind of benefit to our life that's going to make it worthwhile to expend the time on it. There's some doing involved. There's generally some effort, some sweat equity. And this is the one thing that's the opposite. In a way, that's what makes it, this is a way of thinking about it. It's what makes it so important. It has to balance out all that doing with this one time of non-doing that we have to give it a name. So we call it meditation. But really it's not doing, it's just being. So we get used to it. We get used to sitting quietly. We get used to sitting on the chair or sitting on a cushion with your legs crossed. We get used to, we settle into it over the period of one session and over the period of our, whole career of practice. So now we're just, in a way we could say we've added another layer of getting used to. We're getting used to the online, dealing with the virtual aspect of it, and finding that it's so nice to hear you say that, Al. That here it is. Here's that same sense of presence, that same sense of beingness, and that this kind of collective beingness. This what in Buddhist lingo is called sangha, the collective, the shared presence, what in the Christian church is called the community of saints.
Well, online, that sangha is very much there.
Yeah,
So
great.
It brought to mind, I'll just make this quick, when somebody gave a graduation speech in high school, this was like 50, 60 years ago. She said, knowledge is proud, wisdom is humble, and if I knew what I knew now, I would say enlightenment just is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, enlightenment is, and it's the only isness there. It's the same isness that was here all along. Mm-hmm. It's the same. Not only enlightenment is, but enlightenment is isness. It's the isness that's the basis, that's the essence of every moment of experience that we have. It's all that's going on. All of this is just isness showing up in different colors. It's isness showing up in different shapes. It's like we can have different objects. Like we can have, my little meditation bell here, and wait, let me get a different one that's a better example. Here we go. The big boy here. Okay, this is a better example. Let's get a better sound here. Okay, so we look at this, we go, okay, it's a bowl or it's a bell or something, it's this thing. And then, we look at this thing and it's a cup. It's this thing. And so we have certain concepts about it. We think of it in terms of its function, how it acts, how it behaves, how it's used, what names we have for it, what personal history we have tied up with it. But if we look more and more closely into kind of its essence, we realize, oh, they're both metal. They're both brass or whatever the heck they're made out of. Let's pretend they're made out of the same metal, okay, for the purposes of this metaphor. So it turns out that everything is the same stuff. It's all beingness, or it's all, if that sounds too mysterious, we can say, what are all our experiences made out of? Everything we experience, because we only experience experiences, right? We think we experience things. What we experience is experiences. We say, I experience the whatever. I experience the phone. But what I experience is the seeing, right? I see certain color and shape. I experience the feeling. I may experience hearing and then seeing other things on the screen. All of those are forms of awareness. I'm aware of color. I'm aware of the shape. I'm aware of the sound and so forth. So we could say that all our experiences consist of awareness arising in these different shapes, as this, like the bowl and the cup. But the awareness arises as seeing, as this shape and this color and this sound and so forth. But it's all awareness. Like when you have a dream at night, and you dream that it's whatever. You dream it's Christmas, and there's the Christmas tree, and there's the presents, and there's your family, or there's whatever, or the Hanukkah candles, whatever you got. And there's the assumption, when you're in the dream, that, oh, okay, the tree is made out of pine needles and so forth, and the kids under the tree are made out of flesh and blood and hair and DNA and so forth. Then you wake up. And what you realize, and you go, where are those things? Where are the kids? By the way, I was just reading today that in this time of quarantine, a lot of people are doing more vivid dreaming. We can talk about that in a moment, if that's happening for any of you. So we wake up, we go, where's the tree? Where are the kids? Where's all that? Where's all those pine needles? Where's all that bark? Where's all that flesh and blood and hair that I thought those things were made out of? But it turns out they were all made out of awareness. Our awareness populates the whole dream with all its actors, all its scenery, and so forth. And more it becomes clear that our life out here is very much like that. Is that all we experience really is awareness arising in these different modes and these different forms. And when it arises this way, we call it a book. When it arises in this mode, in this shape, we call it whatever we're seeing here, a photograph, a statue, and a microphone, and so forth. Not sure how I got here. What were we talking about, Al?
Oh, all kinds of stuff. Okay, cool. Taken care of isness.
Taking care of business. Okay. Yeah. So there is this, all things are different. A Christmas tree is different from a kid, for sure. A microphone is different from a cup, for sure. But there's also this, what the Zen people call this one taste or one flavor that runs through it all, that somehow, and this becomes clearer and clearer to us, that the one flavor of the same isness just arising in these different forms, or those one awareness which has no color or no shape arising as these different colors, these different shapes. And so
I love the way you things.
Say it again.
I love the way you explain everything. I could sit here and listen,
Okay, good. Well, then you're in the right place. Thanks. So we become more and more at home with everything, no matter what's going on. Yeah, it's different. It's new. It's unexpected. But there's also a certain aspect of, okay, it's always this. And this is delicious. That's key. It's the same beingness, and more it becomes clear that the beingness, that this beingness, which is the essence of everything, that, or we can say awareness, which is the essence of everything, is, this beautiful term from Hindu philosophy. It's ananda. It's the bliss. It's the contentedness. It's the infinite okayness that we're always looking for in all the specific stuff. And it turns out we keep not finding it because we keep looking for it over here, and it's not in any of those places. It's everywhere. It's on the essence level, which we touch first in meditation, and then more and more we start to see, oh yeah, all the stuff's made out of the same thing. I'm just kind of resting in it all the time. And that's why when you're around people who just somehow seem, no matter what happens, it's just really great or it's really horrific, and they deal with it appropriately, but they're not overwhelmed. They're not, it's not, they never, their nature, their hold on the essential nature of everything never gets overshadowed because they're experiencing the sameness of it all and the deliciousness of it all, even in the midst of all the difference and all the situations, the problems that need to be addressed. So what else? Okay, I gotta mute Alan, and I see Yafa has her hand up. I'm gonna unmute her. It's not letting me unmute you. Yafa, are you trying? Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I wasn't trying, but okay. Yeah, I just wanted to mention last week, Karen said something that started me thinking, which was about some stuff that had come up just by being in this quarantine, being, quiet, that stuff comes up. And so stuff that past sort of guilt, past stories, past I woulda, coulda, shoulda kind of things. And it made me realize that it's sort of like being on retreat, that happens when you're on retreat, that when you're in silence, you start to rehash stuff. And it's just an interesting time that we are all kind of like on retreat. Even if we're working a little bit during the day, whatever is happening, there's just a different mode of being that we're in that brings stuff up. So I just wanted to see if you could talk about that.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Let me find Karen, make sure. Yeah, Karen, you're still here. Good. And in fact, I'm gonna unmute Karen so that you can jump into this if you like. And in fact, Karen, as I recall, the way you brought this up last week specifically, the context was the feeling that sometimes the hardest person to forgive is oneself.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And actually, Yafa and I, over the past week, we found ourselves talking about this a couple of times, and I really appreciate your bringing it up, because I think this is maybe a fraught topic for a lot of people, and as Yafa says, specifically at this time, and that this time is really very much like being on retreat. And for people who've been on retreat for days or weeks or months, where you're not doing stuff, you're not involved in the usual busyness of the outside world, so that everything on the outside becomes more settled. And then we start becoming aware of all the busyness on the inside. And then we tend to start unspooling a lot of stuff.
Right.
Running Right, running through the stories, and I don't think I really made that clear last time. So I'm really glad that Yafa reminded me of this. That when you're in the middle, those of you who've been on retreat, you know when you're in the middle of the stuff, you think, oh yeah, this is the way it always is. And you forget that, oh, I'm on retreat now, right? So everything has become more, seems more magnified, more intense. But that's fine. And that's one of the reasons why you're on retreat, why you're off in the woods somewhere where you can't make trouble. You're removed from your daily life, and you're not interacting with your family and your colleagues and so forth. So it's kind of safe to unspool some of this stuff, and you're not going to act on it. That's why rule 1 is put away the cell phone, don't make phone calls, don't write letters, don't call up your old boyfriend or your old girlfriend who you suddenly realize that's the one you should have married. All kinds of crazy stuff comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's great that all this stuff comes up, because that is a big part of what we're here for when we're on retreat. We're here for this old junk to get unspooled, and we can get more cleared of it. Okay. Now, as Yafa said, this being in quarantine is a lot like being on retreat. A whole lot of people don't realize that they've been put on retreat. A lot of people who've never heard of retreat, and they can't wait to get out of it. It's like, because when the stuff starts to unspool, I've sometimes when I've given public talks and teachings and so forth in various parts of the country, I'll sometimes suggest to people, there's a couple of small changes you can make in your life. It's great to sit down and meditate every day. I really advocate that. But you may or may not do that. But you can do things like, when you get into your car, don't automatically turn on your radio or your sound system. And what I find people often say is, oh, but if I don't have that music going, then I'll start hearing my thoughts. I don't want to hear those. Right? It's like, oh, there's all that scary stuff. We got to keep ourselves distracted from it, or who knows what kinds of bats and vermin are going to come pouring out of there. But we want the stuff to come pouring out. Just as long as we know we're in a process of purification, we're in a process of cleansing that stuff. So that's one thing to know. Is that at all helpful, Karen?
So, is it always the case when it comes up, there's always a clearing or a purification taking place?
Yeah, if it's coming up in the context of settling down, then that's what's happening. What happens is, okay, mind and body are always connected. Meditation is primarily, it's a mental state. We're not doing gymnastics. We're not doing, even yoga here. A lot of people, including myself, I love to do some yoga in the morning to keep the body in nice shape, but or relatively nice shape. But the meditation is essentially it's a mental process. The mind, we just rest as awareness, right? We're essentially doing nothing. We're resting in awareness. We're noticing that we're aware, that we don't have to do anything to be aware, that stuff comes and goes within our awareness, but that we're not involved with that, and we just rest as this ordinary awareness. Once we start doing that, because of the mind's natural gravitation toward its own delicious essence, it's ananda, the infinite okayness, which is the nature of beingness itself, the mind naturally settles. Now, because the mind and body are connected, when the mind settles, the body settles. When the body settles, The body, and that's measurable. You know, what's going on in the mind is not measurable. What's going on in the body, the objective correlates of what's going on in the mind, the physical objective correlates, that's measurable to some degree. So we see, okay, the EEG changes, the breathing changes, all the metabolic activities, everything settles down into a state of restful alertness. Now, as a result of that settling down, the old neurological imprints of our old stresses and traumas starts to bubble up out of us. There's no other reason for it to happen. We haven't been engaging ourselves in new intensity, in new experiences. We're settling down, and then the stuff spontaneously starts to come up, right? That's a physiological thing. And sometimes we experience it in a purely physiological way. You know, the body can jerk or jump a little bit, or there's a sudden change in the breath. There may even be sometimes some little spontaneous, like vocal outbursts. And for many people, none of those particular things ever happen. For some people, they do. Or what happens is that there can be a sensation. You get hot, you get cold. This stuff is all more intensified when you're on retreat and meditating for many hours a day. I've had experiences where, you know, in the course of one long meditation of a couple of hours, I'm bundled up because I can't get warm, and then I'm pulling the blankets off because I can't get cool, because the body is just burning through all this old stuff, which is great. That's what we're there for. But very often what happens is, as the stuff is bubbling up physiologically, because mind and body are always connected, then that causes some bubbling up mentally. So it comes up as thoughts, as unspooling of old memories, or could be about anything. Not even necessarily the thought about the event that put the trauma in there in the first place.
Right.
So, and that's an important point, because it's important to know that we can't necessarily analyze, we don't turn it into psychoanalysis that, oh, this thought came up this time, so this is, even if we could do that, which we can't, it doesn't facilitate anything. You know, that would be like sitting in the bathtub as all the dirt is lifting off your body, going, okay, this piece came from under my fingernail from when I was in the garden, and this little bit of dirt came from here. If anything, that just slows things down. We just let it go down the drain. And know that, okay, this is cleansing. Something good is happening. It may not always feel good at the time, especially if it's got a lot of emotional content. But some of you have heard me tell the story, sitting, going through months of meditation of hours and hours a day on the 6-month retreat on Mallorca with my teacher Maharishi. And then we'd come down to the hall at night, and people would say, Maharishi, I laughed for 4 hours today, and then I cried for 4 hours, and and Maharishi, I'm feeling pounding in my head, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that. And Maharishi would listen to all this, and he'd chuckle, and he'd say, oh yes, something good is happening. So just remember that something good is happening. All right, and the stuff is getting cleared out, and this is and whether people meditate or not, this time of quarantine, this is a time of, for a lot of people, this is the most retreat they'll ever be on in their lives, and it's a huge opportunity. So I would say, my advice: make the most of it. Make the most of it. If you happen to be, if your life is set up in some such way, you find yourself going around looking for distractions because you don't have, a whole day's worth of stuff to do, hallelujah. Do more. This is a time to do more meditation. Don't meditate hours of the day, because that you want to do under close supervision. When all that stuff starts pouring out. But if you want to, instead of meditating once a day, meditate 2, 3, 4 times a day, or meditate for a little longer periods, this is the time to do it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, I've never been on a long retreat, so this is something new for me this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you, Yafa, for bringing this up. I appreciate it.
You know, one other thing about that, and this is now coming from a very different angle. But when you brought this up last week, you mentioned the guys that I work with in prison.
Yes.
And one thing that I found is very popular with those guys, and I have a chapter about this. It's in my last book. It's in Fear Less. I have a chapter there called The Fire Hose, because there's this one technique that there's a few people who are here with us on this call tonight who have the same background that Yafa and I have in Vajrayana, Tibetan Buddhist practice. And there's this one practice that I call the fire hose, which is the Vajrasattva practice. And this is a traditional, what they call a purification practice. When you feel, I've got this stuff in my background, I've got this old sticky old karma, or I've got these ailments in my body, or I've got something, I just feel like I need a fire hose, something intense to clear this stuff out. And the simplest, the entry-level version of this technique is a 6-syllable mantra. And you can, I think, Karen, I think you've got that book. You can refer to the chapter.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's a 6-syllable mantra. Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum. And you just visualize like pure white light, like liquid, pure white light pouring down into the top of your head. And you're kind of rotating that process along through the repetition of this mantra. Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum. And it's just pushing all the crap out of you. And you can even visualize it as like, you know, whatever, just gunk or just smelly, noxious, greasy smoke or vermin, whatever's vermin to you, and just pushing it out of your body and pushing it down, you know, out your bottom or out the soles of your feet, way down into the center of the earth, and until you can just keep doing that till you finally, you just feel like you're just like crystal clear. You're like transparent. You're purified. And you can have in mind something specific. Oh, there's this one thing that is so hard to forgive myself for, or there's this one physical ailment or psychological hang up or something that I just want to work on, or just in general, we just want to purify everything. Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva. And then the really deluxe version, there's a much more deluxe version of the visualization that can't really go into right now. And there's a more deluxe version of the mantra. Instead of 6 syllables, it's 100 syllables. And I'll tell you, one of the most fulfilling teaching experiences of my life was sitting with these guys at Northern State Prison, many of whom had never made it past, you know, the 5th grade or something, many of whom could barely read. And going back and forth, them learning this 100-syllable Tibetan mantra. And, you know, I would say a few syllables, they would repeat them back. I'd say they'd repeat them back. And then, you know, we'd get a whole line. And gradually, over a couple of weeks, building this thing up. And these guys love doing that thing. And when you're just doing that 100-syllable mantra, just like a pile driver, Om Vajrasattva, right? It's a fire hose.
Wow. That's fabulous. Thank you.
Yeah. And by the way, if people are ever interested, you know, if there's sufficient interest, we could do some kind of special session of working on that. If you know, so people let me know about that. So I'm gonna mute Karen, and there's Adam and Francisca have had their hand up for a while, so let me unmute them. I will unmute you. There you go. Yes. So what's up, guys in Australia?
Hey, yeah. Hey, hi.
Hi.
That was me raising my hand, and it was something came up when earlier in the session you asked if the fires were out here in Australia. And that got me thinking, and for anybody who isn't aware, tens of millions of acres of forest in Australia burned this summer, and billions of animals were killed. Something like a third of the Great Barrier Reef has been bleached out, killed in the last 5 years. It's crazy. And so what I was thinking about during the meditation is the fact that this is now the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. And it's something that as a younger generation really concerns me. It's something that I use meditation for, because I believe, and I think it would be hard to argue, the earth is really in peril. And I imagine, I think a lot about it now in this time, that I wonder, where things would be if, say, the earth had the spokesman that the COVID-19 virus does, so I would just, my goal is just to share it. Hope that everyone thinks about that, thinks about where we are, as a society, and where we're headed. There's a big, there I think 3 days of online events going on with speakers and musicians. It's all online this year because no one can attend. It's called Earth Day Live. You can look it up easily and tune in. And I don't know, think a little bit about the planet we all live on, because it's in trouble.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for bringing that up. A big part of my perspective on that is, okay, why is this happening? And if I'm only allowed to give a one-syllable answer, I think I'd have to go with greed. People who are run these corporations, who, don't they have children and grandchildren the way I do? Don't they want them? But, when you're making billions of dollars by doing the wrong thing, it's really hard to hear. It's really hard to hear that it's wrong. It's really easy to justify it to yourself. And the ironic thing about that greed is that it never works. You can't get enough stuff. We were talking before about the mirror-like nature of awareness. The thing is that the mirror, how deep is a mirror? How far back does the crystalline, open, empty, colorless reflectivity of the mirror, how far back does it go? It goes back infinitely far. Awareness in its nature is infinite. And the predicament of human life is that we're always trying to fill up our boundless, infinite awareness with finite things, finite experiences and substances and achievements and relationships and so forth. And they never work because they're finite. Only the mirror can fill the mirror. And we're in this unprecedented time where certain individuals and groups, corporations, nations have amassed enough power that they can, do this stuff that's maybe completely exploiting, completely destroying our habitat, trying to fill up their mirror, trying to get enough stuff, enough money, enough pairs of shoes, whatever, to say, finally that's enough. And it's never going to work. So, of course, it's important to do, activism has to, I think, to be effective, has to happen at every level. You have to have the level where you're sharing information, where you're bringing things to people's attention. You're making people feel the emotional impact of, hey, this is the world of your children, your grandchildren we're talking about. But I think also for it to really be effective, you've got to be helping people find a way to find that fulfillment, that completeness that they're looking for in all the wrong places. So,
yeah, I think if I can just mention, it goes back to what we talked about in the beginning, right? At your friends with the cartoon said that we I forget what the I was just blanking on it, but it was the same concept again.
Yeah.
I forget it. I found it.
Okay, good. I want to move on to, because there's a couple other hands up. I want to move on to, who do we have here? Sherry. I'm going to unmute you. Yes, Sherry or Regan. Yes.
Yeah, it's the Regan part of Regan and Sherry. Actually, I was going to say, if you want to go ahead, if there's somebody else with their hand up, go ahead, because I had mine up, but I couldn't figure out how to get it off. So okay. I can wait if you want to.
No, go ahead, please.
Okay. I was at the part about the importance of being able to see you and hear you in this format. And as you know, it's been many, many moons since I was actually able to see you. And it was great when you started having your YouTube session afterward. That was great. But on the issue of seeing and hearing you, and I so appreciate you providing this, the hearing part, I don't know how other to say this except that your voice puts us to sleep. Like we do everything we can to stay awake. I'm sorry, but maybe this is awful, but I was thinking, wow, you have all this stuff about insomnia for people. It's like, oh my God. And I think it's part of what you said something last time about how the more you do this, that on-ramp, it just gets closer and closer. You know, whatever it is, whatever the on-ramp is, in this case, it's your voice for us, but just the yes, that it does like instantly, but we don't want to be falling asleep. Particularly, we resolve to stay awake. I know that you say that it's great, and the best sleep I've ever had is in the Zendo.
Yeah,
okay, that's all good. That's all good.
But wait, Regan, wait. Before you move on, I really want you. I feel like you're almost hearing yourself on this topic.
What am I trying to say?
You're almost allowing yourself to hear that it's fine and it's good and it's healing to fall asleep in meditation. But, you know, in particular, I know you've got a Buddhist background, a Zen background where, you know, I don't know how many years of indoctrination you had into this idea that it's bad, it's forbidden. So I think that's still going on. I think you can't quite believe that it's okay to fall asleep. But anyway, yeah, I've been told many times, especially in my years as a school teacher, that my voice puts people to sleep.
Well, it's very, I know that I did get in touch with you to let you know that your voice had literally saved my life in a recovery room because I could not breathe from fentanyl. And I was panicking. And Sherry she just took my phone, went to the meditation that you do. We listened to it many, many times. It's like 8 minutes or something. And just put it on my chest. And I couldn't hear what you were saying, but the sound of your voice viscerally, I was able to start breathing in a way that they kept saying, you better start breathing. And I'm telling you, you know, it was, so there's that part of it. And of course, much appreciated. Well, thank you for that. But just, there's something about hearing and seeing and all of what's going on with the Zooming is somehow all connected and it's all good.
Yeah.
The bottom line is it's all good. So
good stuff. Correct. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And at the same time, who knows if we'll be able to do this even one more time? You know, who knows what on this vast communal retreat that we could say the world Sangha is being put through, kicking and screaming. What will we be deprived of next? It's like over the last month or so, we've all learned how to move all our old stuff that we used to do in person, how to move it online. Is the next lesson going to be, now we're going to lose the online?
Right, and we can.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, is that, we just assume this cloud is there, but, there's a bunch of servers and, little hamsters on wheels, whatever it is that keeps the thing going. That can go down anytime. And it's always wonderful to find people who are, for you, they're like a teacher or a guide, whoever, helps facilitate the locating this boundless okayness as the nature of your own awareness. And, what could be better? At the same time, what is the teacher's main task? The teacher's main task is to make sure you've found this within yourself so that the teacher can make himself obsolete. So the teacher can make him, the teacher is training wheels, and he always wants to knock the training wheels off ASAP, because life's unpredictable. And because the whole point is not to be dependent, great, the stuff that works for you, the recordings, so great that we can have this stuff on our phones and so forth, and we can have all our, all the tchotchkes got up here on the altar. But you've also got to be, at the same time, finding, okay, how do I function without any of this? What is it all pointing me toward? Which is this awareness, this beingness, this presence, which is always right here, which is in fact all there is.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Okay, let me mute you. Let me lower your hand. And Tova, okay, let me unmute you. Okay. Yes, Tova.
I just wanted to tell you that the way I learned Vajrasattva, I learned it from Maggie, and I got
Maggie, for those of you who don't know, Maggie is my late first wife. And she was a kind of junior teacher in this Buddhist organization that Yafa and Tova and I and Terry were all connected with. And Maggie's teaching specialty was the Vajrasattva practice.
And I got a tape, not CD, of you and her chanting it together. And I may still have it.
Right. I think we made that tape specially for you.
Oh, you did? I
think so, yeah. I forgot about it because I don't have a copy of that. I do have a copy, when the Vajrasattva practice is also considered, and Tova, I know you know this, in Tibetan Buddhist practice, when someone who's a serious practitioner passes, what's considered to be the best thing to do for them is to chant the Vajrasattva for them, to help kind of whatever hanging on, whatever old stuff they got, to help purify that for them, to the ideas for them to have the most, cleanest exit and the cleanest moving on. So when Maggie passed, and we were arranging the memorial, and Tova, I don't know if you know this, but we got Charles Genoux, who was Maggie's favorite Buddhist.
I know, he came and he wore a suit.
Yes, and I called him. He got on the next plane from Switzerland, and I'm pretty sure he's never owned a suit in his life, but we borrowed a suit from a friend. I have a photo of him in that suit, which is hilarious. And someone else, it was Laura York, if you remember her. She had this tape of Maggie leading the Vajrasattva and talking a little bit about it, and talking about how you do this for a person who's died. And it starts with her wonderful laugh. So at her memorial, we didn't announce this, we just sprung it on people. We just, at a certain point, we pushed play and we played that recording. So it started with laugh, and then Maggie's voice led the group in first explained to them how you do this practice for someone who's died, and then led the group in doing the practice for her.
Wow.
Yeah, it was fantastic. You know, for weeks, people were coming up to me saying, they said, that wasn't just the best funeral I've ever been to. That was the best anything I've ever been to.
Wow.
So people, if you're interested in, well, let me put you all on gallery view. Would there be interest in doing maybe something online and getting into this Vajrasattva practice? Let me see, raise your physical hands if you'd be interested in that. Okay, excellent, good. Oh, I would love that. So we'll do it.
On Tuesdays.
On Tuesdays. Well, I want to keep this time for regular meditation. We'll you know, I'll sit down with Yafa, who is my specialist in, you know, issues of time and space and objects and events, all the things that I'm not good with. And I'm very good with everything else. Once you eliminate time, space, objects, and events, I'm pretty good. And we'll propose something, and we'll put something out and you know, see that it works for other people. Yes, two things quickly before I forget. The Regan, what you were saying about the voice putting you to sleep for people with insomnia, I want to recommend a podcast. It's called Sleep With Me. Sleep With Me, and it's this guy with this fabulous kind of creaky voice, and he tells stories that don't go anywhere. He tells these stories that are like just interesting and wacky and interesting enough to grab your interest, but just tedious enough that they kind of go in circles, and he's got this kind of creaky, fuzzy voice, and his whole thing is telling you these nice, soothing, rambling stories to help you fall asleep. So you might want to check out that podcast if you're having trouble sleeping. Sleep With Me. And I've been, a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned, I put it in the newsletter, that I'd been on the Adam Ferrara podcast with a little mini podlet on some practice, and they just dropped a new episode of that today. I'll put that out in the next newsletter. So that's going to be there. It's time to wrap things up. I apologize if I didn't get to respond to your hand up. Let me just quickly, to get to Margot, because I know you've had your hand up for a while. Margot, I've unmuted you. What you got?
I have nothing. I was raising my hand for the last question of would we be interested in, I can't pronounce it.
Vajrasattva. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, perfect then. Okay, so may all beings swiftly realize their own inherent nature, the boundless okayness of their own presence, which is the presence of all things. For lack of a better word, happiness. And thus, may peace naturally prevail everywhere throughout all possible universes. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean and Jaffa.
Good to see you all.
It's the cookies and tea.
See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Yafa.
Bye, Tova.
Bye.
And Terry, get in touch. Let's chat sometime. Let's catch up, okay?
Bye.
Chanting is good.
Yeah. Okay, Terry, I'm not hearing you, but you know what? Send me an email. We'll get together, okay? I want to catch up with you. Okay. Okay. Good night, everyone. Enjoy being.